Good evening. Welcome to BW Dialogue for BW Wellbeing of BW Business World. Today we have a very special guest with us, Miss Manjari Chandra. It is my honor and privilege to introduce her to you all. Miss Manjari Chandra wears many hats, including those of a functional nutritionist, wellness coach, entrepreneur, speaker, author, and most importantly, a mother. Having worked for many of India's leading hospitals such as Max Healthcare, Manipal Hospital, and Columbia Asia, while running her own platform of Manjari Wellness, she has dedicated her career to changing her patients' lives by reversing their diseases using modern science and blending it with ancient Indian wisdom, curative herbs, along with aiding inclusive health. Welcome, ma'am.
Thank you, Karan. Pleasure to be here. Right.
This is likewise, ma'am. Ma'am, so how have the last 9 months in the pandemic been for you personally and professionally?
Personally, like for all of us, there have been very challenging times. The pandemic, I think, has been a challenge which none of us have ever imagined or heard of in our own lifetimes. On a professional note, however, the pandemic has been an opportunity to do multiple things. One is, the concept of preventive health has become foremost in the minds of people, and people have become extremely particular about their preventive health. Most people are so afraid of getting into an infection that they are ready to take proactive steps to keep themselves healthy. And that's been a big thing because, for people like us who work more in the preventive and the remission stage, it's an opportunity for us to work more closely with our patients and to tell them that it's not a good idea to get a disease and cure it, but it's a better idea to armor yourself and have your body in such a state that you don't fall prey to diseases. So it's been a great opportunity, in fact.
Ma'am, how did the idea of your book, Eat Up, Clean Up Your Personal Journey to a Healthy Life, germinate in your mind?
Kavi, actually, what happened was as we practiced medicine for many, many years, we saw that what was happening was people have been, it is so ironical, Kavi, that in today's date, we have so much of medical research and clinical acumen across the world. But the burden of disease is only increasing. I mean, there is more cancer every year, there is more diabetes, there is more newer forms of diseases. So it's quite ironical and very, contradictory. And over many years of work, we realized that a lot of diseases that we do, although we know that they're lifestyle diseases, are triggered largely by what you do to yourself, by what you eat, when you sleep, what you think, how you move. These simple things that we do daily will define how my health will be, yes? And it is also a definition of whether I will fall into serious cardiometabolic conditions. And also because there's so much information around, there's a lot of confusion in people's mind. So I just wanted to write something which is a simple read for people, wherein, people can just quickly read it without getting into technicalities for them to understand basics. Two, I wanted to bring the concept of, preventive and therapeutic nutrition to the fore of prevention of large diseases, all the way to cancer. In my clinical practice, for example, Kavi, I can tell you with surety that 80% of disease load can be cut down if we start eating better, And that's a huge thing. I mean, why should a government and a country and a civilization go through so much trauma of diseases when just changing our basic food can prevent it? So I thought, let me write something which is an easy read, a non-technical, simple read, and gives solutions to people, simple solutions.
Yeah, ma'am. Ma'am, so you feel that the book is the need of the hour right now? Some people don't lead a very healthy life. So do you feel that it's very apt for this time?
I would think so. Of course, the reader can decide, but I have, my idea of writing it was to write it at a point when it will, help people. I mean, today or 10 years down the line, conceptually health remains the same, so it should be helpful. That's the idea. And I've actually not shied away, Kavi, from pointing out the big food and the big pharma, which has been responsible for our ill health, which although we know, we never talk about it.
Yes. Ma'am, so when did you first discover your passion? How did you create this career of helping people through being a health expert, nutritional expert, and wellness expert? Entrepreneur, speaker, and now author.
Yeah, that's sounds a lot of things, but it's actually one and the same. In our practice, we're doing the same thing day in and day out. We see people in wellness, in disease, and we just try to give them small ways, handhold them into becoming healthier. You know, if I could take an example to explain this, Kavi. Let's talk about something as simple as a breast cancer, which is highly the breast cancer week that was celebrated in October this year, which is an international October is breast cancer awareness week, and we went through various studies realizing that the load of breast cancer has become doubled in the last 30 years. Two times more women have breast cancer today than they had 30 years back. And the reason for this disease, which can sometimes be even fatal and very traumatic, is just two simple things. The fact that women carry excess percentage body fat, they carry too much fat, which changes the way insulin behaves in the body, and the fact that there is not enough movement in the body, or there is not enough good food to destroy the toxins that cause cancer. Just these two become the larger. You see, cancer is not a disease which happens just like that. It's a lifestyle disease. And solid cancers are completely driven by lifestyle. So if we know that they are driven by lifestyle, why should we wait for a person to get breast cancer and treat him? Why not have this dialogue that these are 5 things you can do to not have breast cancer? So that was that. I thought that made more sense, and therefore I thought, let me also break this myth about cancer, that cancer will happen to anybody and everybody. Cancer is also led by what we do to ourselves.
Yes.
And so I thought, let me just put something simple together and see if people accept it.
Ma'am, I was reading recently that every 3 minutes a woman gets breast cancer.
Yeah. The statistics are really mind-boggling. They're quite, and because we see it so often in our centers and hospitals and clinics, we really hope that these people were told at some point of time that you can get it. If those people knew how not to get it, they would have chosen that over getting it. And that is where I thought we can play a bigger role.
Okay, no. Ma'am, when we talk of cancer, especially breast cancer, what are the carcinogens how are they created, and which specific kind of lifestyle makes you get such a form of cancer?
Yeah, so all cancers get triggered by something called inflammation. They are all inflammatory diseases. So when you have injury and inflammation in the body, you have a sick body which is becoming sicker because you don't have good digestion, you don't have the right type of hormones, you don't have the right type of percentage body fat. When you are in an environment which has all these wrong things, they cause the body to become inflamed. And that inflammation can actually manifest as many things. One of the ways in which it manifests is cancer. However, cancer is also triggered by something called necrosis, tumor, the formation of tumor cells. And these tumor cells are very, very weak cells. They can only survive if you feed them. If I don't feed tumor cells, I can actually kill them. It's as simple as that. For that, I have to learn not to eat all the time, not eat sugars that feed cancer. So every time you eat simple sugar or you eat a refined food, it has very high amount of sugar. Sugar becomes the food on which these tumor cells multiply. So
Yes.
people who are eating very refined food, eating out too much, eating processed food, eating food which is laden with stabilizers and emulsifiers and chemicals will have high chances of getting cancers, including breast cancer. However, the other way is also true. If I change the way I eat and I eat clean, if I follow and have a disciplined schedule, and if I cut down my percentage body fat, I can almost save myself from cancer. And almost, when I'm saying almost, up to 99%, if not 100%. So if something so simple can save you from such a deadly disease,
Yes.
then I think it should be talked about more.
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, so what kind of nutrition would you suggest during these tough times of the pandemic to build a good immune system?
Yeah, so an immune system is like any other organ system in the body. Like we have a heart and arteries and veins that make the circulatory system, we have special cells that make the immune system. We all know the adaptive immunity, the innate immunity. The immune system is not a localized system. It is spread throughout the body as cells. And unlike any other system, the immune system also cannot be developed in a day. You can't suddenly, take something to boost or increase your immunity. It's part of a healthy body. The healthier your system is, the lesser the inflammation, the better the hormones, the good the nutritional status, the better the sleep, the more robust the immune system is. Therefore, you see, when we use the word immune compromised, it is actually used for people who have diseases, people who have cancer, who have diabetes. They are the ones, their systems are not working properly. So because all the systems are not working properly, the immunity is also poor. So they become immune compromised. For people like me and you who are slightly younger and don't have a debilitating disease, building immunity is really no rocket science. It's like building your own health. If you work on your health, you're also working on your immunity.
Yeah, ma'am, fantastic. Ma'am, how is COVID-19 affecting our mental wellness?
It is. It's a really sad time for children, for elderly people who are confined in their houses, and although the WHO recommends something called social distancing, that people should socially distance each other, human beings are social animals. Yes, we're supposed to meet people, give a hug. When you give somebody a hug, your body secretes a hormone called oxytocin, which is a happiness hormone. And when you're socially distancing each other, it's bound that your mental health will be compromised. It's bound that people who are confined in their houses, are not meeting people, don't have company or friends to talk to, will have these issues. It's a very, very difficult time for a lot of people. Nutrition has a little bit of a role to play, because you have a good working system and a good gut. It can keep making healthy hormones, so these oxytocin, serotonin, dopamine, the happy hormones that we hear about,
Endorphins.
they're made, endorphins. So they're made in our gut actually. 80% of them are made in their gut. They're neurotransmitters. If you have a good system and if you have good digestion, if you have a robust digestive system and gut, your mental health will be slightly more sound, because you're making the right hormones that will keep you happier.
Okay, ma'am. Ma'am, also some people, maybe due to lack of awareness, lead an unhealthy lifestyle, which results in poor physical and mental health. So what are the solutions to get them out of this? Like, obviously, we have to make them aware, but what is the solution to getting them out of this vicious circle?
I think, Kavi, we have to look at specific solutions. Generic advice of, move more or eat better is not just the right solution. what we do is we identify what are the specific issues a person faces. For example, a person might look very healthy from the outside, but he may have a biochemistry which is not correct. He may he may look very smart, but he may not have good mental health. So you have to, I think, specifically identifying a person's condition and making those target solutions is the ideal way. Of course, it can't be done for everybody. So we have some general guidelines, and all of us sort of know, because we are highly educated and informed, that the guidelines remain same. They remain the bit of, sleeping well, moving enough, eating what is local, native and seasonal, and eating lesser than, if you look at Ayurveda, for example, the first concept of Ayurveda is that you eat 50 to 70% of your stomach, of your, appetite. You never eat a full stomach. The second concept is that you eat only a specific type of food. But we've forgotten all that. Most of the time, many times I ask my, patients that, when was the last time you actually felt hungry? And many of them say that we eat even before we are hungry, because we're just eating by a plan. It's lunchtime, let's eat something. We're sitting in the office, let's grab a coffee. So we have even killed our basic instincts.
Ma'am, on a personal note, do you feel that over the years, you have evolved as a person treating so many patients and clients?
Yes, I think so. Because what happens is, when you're constantly doing the same thing day in and day out, you're writing on it, you're reading on it. We also do a lot of research in terms of, writing papers and doing case studies. And you work in an inpatient, outpatient setting, you do evolve as a person, because you tend to apply the same rules to yourself which you want others to apply to themselves. So, and you also don't want to come across as somebody who just preaches and does not practice.
Yes, ma'am.
So, yeah.
Ma'am, what is the mantra to remaining healthy? Not completely healthy. Some people are never completely healthy. But what is the mantra for being as healthy as possible?
It's very simple. If I could use a little bit of a technical jargon
Yes,
here.
ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
In our body, there are some aging pathways. The body has aging pathways. There are some biochemical pathways, like there is the MTFR pathway, there is IL-6. These are all aging pathways. These are inflammatory pathways, and they get triggered by certain things. The common things that trigger aging in me and you and other people is stress, smoking, being overweight or obese, carrying excess body fat, carrying a fatty liver, being nutritionally deficient. People are low on micronutrients. Nobody has enough vitamin D3 and magnesium. These are common things that initiate or trigger the aging pathway. And if I want to remain healthier and younger, I should take away those things which trigger the aging pathway. And then I can stay younger. Another very simple way of staying younger, which is something that all our ancestors knew about, is the concept of not eating all the time. When we do practice some form of fasting and we don't eat all the time, our healthier cells called stem cells come into circulation.
Yes, ma'am.
Because they are actually sitting inside the bone marrow waiting for that rainy day to happen. When you don't eat all the time, you're creating that rainy day and you're causing the stem cells to come into circulation. So one easy way of staying healthy would be to sleep well, eat clean and less, and fast a little. If you could just do these 2-3 small things, it's quite easy. It's not rocket science.
Ma'am, you have achieved so much, yet you're humble. So how do you maintain such humility?
That's very kind of you to say, but we work in patient settings. We work with real people, and we see a lot of suffering also, and it keeps you grounded.
Okay, ma'am. Ma'am, is there any idea of penning down another book in your mind as of now, or are you focusing mainly on your career for now also?
No, Kavi, career, yes, I want to work more and more, but I have already written my second book, which Rupa is
Oh,
publishing.
okay.
It's now on the editing table. They are editing the book.
Oh,
It's called
fantastic.
Magical Ingredients.
Magical ingredients. Okay, ma'am.
So I've already done it. It's just now getting edited. So should be out in the first quarter of next year.
That's great, ma'am. Congratulations. Uh, Ma'am, who are the people you look up to in your field, and who, if any, mentors you have in your domain? Is there like some people do have mentors and people they look up to?
Yeah, there are plenty, but to name a few out of those, there are few people I really, in fact, they have inspired me. Whatever knowledge I have probably have gained from them, they've been teachers. One of them is a personal mentor. His name is Dr. Alok Chopra. He's my medical director also. Everything that I know, probably I've learned from him. Then there is a gentleman called Dr. Soumit Rawat, who is the chairman of liver transplant at Gangaram. An extremely informed doctor. Then there is somebody I personally look up to is somebody called Dr. Mark Hyman. Dr.
Yes.
Mark Hyman is the director of Cleveland Clinic and a very big proponent of good eating, and he in very simple words is able to put the right correlation between food and disease and explain it in very simple terms. So these are people I really look up to, and there are many more. But to start with, these are the people.
Okay, ma'am. Ma'am, you care deeply about wellness and for your overall self-development of every person who you instill in positive advice. So what advice would you give to an arrogant or an egoistic person who thinks they know it all and come to you with a full cup and tell you that and try to teach you instead, or just come to test you? And because they say you learn only when you empty the cup, but when the cup is full, how do you deal with such people?
Kavi, there are plenty of people we meet like that in our everyday practice. A lot of people who come with, I know it, what's new that you're going to tell me? Or, we've read enough and we've traveled the world and we know everything. So we meet a lot of those people. There are two ways of doing it. One is, of course, there is something called I use this very commonly called the power of intent, which
Yes.
is if I have the intention to help the person across me, that transfers to that person. So you cannot really fight somebody with a bigger ego by being egoistic yourself. You become the smaller person then, and you just try and intentionally help him, and he'll eventually get it. That's one. Second is that, I use this analogy many times to talk to a lot of people. In our body, Kavi, there are two systems. There is a parasympathetic nervous system and there is a sympathetic nervous system. The sympathetic nervous system was not made for an everyday work. It's called the fear, fight, flight system. When I'm, in a fearful condition, let's say somebody is trying to run me over with a car, or I have a wild animal or a dog chasing me. In that condition, my body starts making more blood. My heart starts pounding faster so that I can run away fast. That is called the sympathetic nervous system. 90% of the time, we should not allow it to rule us. We should allow the system called the parasympathetic nervous system that keeps us calm and relaxed to rule us. But in today's hustle bustle and deadlines and too much to do, people are always in a fear, fight, flight mode.
Yes.
And this fact itself keeps them very sick. So that's one thing. So people who come to us with a little bit of a boisterous thing, or I am an achiever and I know it all,
Yes, ma'am.
we try to tell them that they need to calm down and first let their parasympathetic nervous system and their calming and healthy system overtake their body. Only then they can be healthy. If you're always in an excited state, your body will use excess of a hormone called cortisol,
Yes, ma'am.
which is a stress hormone, and it causes a lot of havoc to the body. So we try to explain them in a technical way so that they understand what we're trying to, and eventually most people will, succumb to what you're trying to say.
Okay, ma'am. Ma'am, any tips for the youth of today?
You know, one tip that I tell all the young people who come to me is don't eat anything which you think your grandmother cannot recognize. We call it the grandmother's rule. If you see something in a store which looks very fancy and says trans fat free and added this, don't buy it. If your grandmother says this is good, most of the time her validation will be better than the validation of many more people. So one thing that I tell people, the grandmother's rule is eat what you have grown up eating. Eat what was native to your to your region, to your family, to where you came from, and that makes life very easy. So that's one very simple tip. And the second tip is that the next big science that we'll be now getting into after nutrition is called the circadian living, which means living with the sun. Most of us have forgotten that all our grandparents and ancestors would get up at 4 a.m. 4 a.m. is supposed to be the first part of the day in Indian culture. And people would sleep early. So they got up with the sun, they worked with the sun, they ate with the sun, and they slept with the sun going down. And that's the best way of living. We've now reversed it. We are up through the night, studying, watching television, thanks to the internet, and then get up late in the morning. So that's another very simple thing that can keep you very healthy. Just living with the sun is a great idea.
Okay, ma'am. Ma'am, and just my last question, any message you would like to give our readers and audience?
One is I'd request them to go ahead and read the book if they like it. That's one. And second is, of course, that, it's really not it's really not a good idea to be half knowledgeable, because half knowledge is very big. So if you really want to get good advice, you could go to a person who knows what they're saying, or you could take the advice from your well-wishers. But don't trust everything that you see on social media or the trends that happen and everywhere, and follow them, because these people are not giving you the right advice. They're only giving you advice which makes them popular. So a lot of people follow health basis social media. So that's the wrong thing to do.
Okay, ma'am. Ma'am, I don't have any more questions. If you would like to say a little more about your book, anything if you want to say, or have we covered everything?
There's a chapter in the book, it's on packaged food.
Okay.
A lot of people still ask us, oats to kha sakte hai na? Oats to is healthy.
Yes, I had it this morning.
So there's a chapter in the book on packaged food and how packaged food originated and what really happens when you eat out of a packet, and how it's really not a good idea to do that. And that's something I really want to emphasize, because I'll just give you an example. If you pick up a small packet of fruit juice, let's say, a packed fruit juice, and turn it around, you'll find that one juice contains at least 20 things in it. Not only the fruit and sugar and the pulp and the extract, it contains stabilizers, emulsifiers, flavors, colors, and multiple other things. They're written in fine print because, they don't want you to see all that and pay attention to it. So it's written in fine print. And therefore, one of the important things to do is to stop eating out of packets, and get back to real food. So there's another quote we use, which is, if anything grows on a plant, eat it. If it is coming out of an industrial plant, never eat it. It's a very simple rule to follow. So nothing that is packaged is healthy ever. So just avoid it completely.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Ma'am, we are very grateful that you took out time and this was very insightful. Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you, Kavi. Thank you for your time. Thank you, and pleasure being with you. And
Pleasure
see you
talking to you,
sometime
ma'am.
soon again.
Yes, ma'am.